Really appreciate you taking the time to sit with us on Strategy Unscripted today.
Pleasure.
Obviously, it's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to work together as well over recent months. To begin with, perhaps you could just give a little bit of an introduction to yourself and your career journey up until this point.
Yeah. So I'm MD of Belazu in that very privileged position, and I've worked in the food industry for circa 25 years. So I started life as a food technologist at M&S. I did food science at uni in Belfast, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. Did a placement year with M&S, got offered a full-time job off the back of that in central London, coming straight out of uni thinking I've landed.
Is that the Paddington days?
It was Baker Street initially, and then into Paddington, and then spent about 11 years there, working a variety of roles, from more from a technologist into buyer into trading manager, and I knew that my career was sort of destined to be one of general management rather than technical specialist, and then off the back of that, having spent 11 years in a large blue chip organisation, I moved to work for a small organic food business based in the Cotswolds called Deals for Organic. So going from a large blue chip to privately owned was quite a contrast, but really good fun. And I think there is where I sort of really started to learn about business and all the various different aspects of people management, running manufacturing sites and kitchens. And I spent 3.5 years there, loved what I did, worked with Carl Bamford, who's one of the most visionary people I'd ever had the pleasure of working with. And off the back of that, an opportunity came up then to join another organic food business called Able & Co, which is part of the William Jackson Food Group, which is the parent company of Belazu today. I started there as the buying and technical director. And then really over the course of the last 9 years, I've been under the ownership of the William Jackson Food Group. I've worked in 3 of the 4 current businesses in a variety of roles, but ultimately I've been in role at Belazu for the last 4.5 years as MD, and I delighted and again super privileged to have taken over from the original founders, so Adam and George, who founded the business back in 1991. And I promised that I wouldn't screw it up for them, and here we are today.
And you certainly haven't.
So far.
So just to go back on a random tangent for a second, M&S, food technology, Colin the Caterpillar days, or
Colin the Caterpillar, Percy Pig, all the
development of the staple products.
The main area that I sort of spent most of my time in, both from a technical point of view and also in the trading role, was in food to go, eating out of home. So at that stage, M&S were putting more investment in the hot food counters, because in the winter the sandwich sales dropped down and we didn't have a hot offering. So I was part of the team that sort of rolled all that out across the estate, the in-store delis, cafes, and I spent about 6 years in the sort of food to go, eating out of home space, which sort of connected me with a love affair for coffee, which is still to this day. Okay. And I think the big thing from M&S days is, working in such a large organisation, it's really helped me build my network over the years. So the team here are sick and tired of me saying, work with that person, ex-M&S, and the ex-M&S alumni now spreads far and wide. Really formative years of my career. I love working at M&S. It was all about, quality products, service, trust, the integrity around the products, and that sort of really stuck true with me to this day.
And again, a slight tangent, but you're talking about the importance of a network that's developed. Do you think that's just as a byproduct of working in a large blue chip, or is it something that you had to work at, prioritise?
Yeah, so I think M&S gave me the platform, but then it's down to the individual and the attitude, and I would say that that's something that I remember working for one of my old bosses. The guy that actually brought me back to work full time at M&S after my placement year, a guy called Alan Spate, who I still keep in touch with to this day. But he said to me, David, your job is not to be the expert, it's to know the experts. And I think quite early in my career, that sort of really helped me form that I don't need to be an expert at everything, but I need to have a network of people that I can call and have reference points.
Yeah, completely.
And that's still true to this day. Yeah.
So let's take a leap then from M&S to Belazu today. Can you maybe just give a little bit of an introduction overview of the Belazu brand, what it consists of, products, services?
Yeah, so Belazu was started by two guys, two best mates from school, been best mates from the age of 11, Adam and George. George was the chef, foodie, inspiration behind it. Adam was sort of his mate and sort of said, I think we can create a business out of this. But ultimately it was born out of a desire to bring the best ingredients from the Med, and it started life not as Belazu but as the Fresh Olive Company of Provence. And our first products that we brought into the UK to sell were olives, and that still accounts for over 20% of our business today, so it's still a really core part of our business.
Some of which are on this shelf behind us, somewhere around here.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, you'll see plenty of products and reference points dotted around.
Yeah.
But really, so it was George's sort of experience as a chef and seeing in kitchens about the quality of ingredients that he knew that weren't accessible in the UK at that point. So with a big dream and a few quid in his pocket, he got a van, drove down to Provence, brought the olives back, sold very well, and then just kept going from there and never looked back. But the core part of our business today still remains in sort of food service, so supplying the best restaurants and kitchens up and down the country, and working really closely with chefs to bring them the best ingredients from across the Mediterranean, Middle East, and also now into Asia with our Miso Tasty brand, which we added in just under 2 years ago. But really it's about bringing the best ingredients to the best kitchens, and we've got a simple purpose in Belazu. It's to inspire and serve chefs in every kitchen, and that's about inspiring them in terms of the products that we can, but also just the way we serve, our relationships, and we've continued just to build on that. We have a growing presence now in retail, and you will see us popping up in more and more retail locations. That's very deliberate and very much part of our strategy. But still circa 65% of our sales today are in food service, and that's our heartland.
Okay. And it's interesting, you touched on a few points there related to the core purpose of the organisation, related to the long-term strategy, and often you hear people throw around the term purpose-led organisation. Would you say that is quite true of the Belazu brand? Does it still very much sit at the core, the heart of the organisation? Yeah,
we do. One of the things I think is in a business you've got a responsibility. We've got over 230 employees. Trying to communicate to everyone on a similar level can be quite challenging, because some are in sales, some are in production, some are in transport. But we start every single town hall meeting that we have on a monthly basis. This is why we exist. This is what we're here to do. So everybody's really clear, and new people coming in. Our purpose is we're born to inspire and serve chefs in every kitchen. So everything we do needs to ladder up to serving our customers. And I think that's something we've refined over the last few years. But again, we've refined the wording, but the core purpose of the business is sort of carried on from what was there from when Adam and George founded in 1991. And I think the other bit I would add to that is, I think if you're going to do things with strategic intent, you need to have a purpose. You need to know why you're doing it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely so. And for you, it seems very clear, and from my experience, the organisation, it's clear for a lot of the teams and individuals as well. What are the challenges that you've experienced and come across in terms of providing that clarity to the team? Because it's a difficult thing to do to 200 plus people.
Yeah, I think it's clarity in terms of we recently did an offsite with 38 managers to try and cascade to the management level, what we're trying to achieve. And I did a little video, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the big rocks, the pebbles, the sand, trying to get it all into a glass jar. And if you start with the sand and then the pebbles, then the big rocks, you can't fit everything in. But if you put the big rocks in first, then you can get the pebbles and the sand will fill in around it. And that's really to focus the mind and trying to sort of keep it quite high level here. It's the 5 or 6 things, or the 3 things that we're trying to achieve in our sort of strategy. There's six strategic pillars that we're trying to get after. So we are putting 6 big rocks in the jar and then just trying to fill everything else around it, because I think quite often people in sort of at the lower end of the organisation, at the entry level roles, quite difficult for them to get a sense of what we're trying to do. But they then can see when things come through and opportunities come through with investment in the facility, with new packaging formats. They can then see that come to life. They go, all right, that's what we're trying to do. Okay, so like as an example, export's a growing part of our business. So we're having to, so a simple manifestation of that is actually they're seeing more products with different languages on labels.
Of course, yeah.
So it's actually, if they know that export's a priority, then when more and more products are coming through, they go, okay, so we're obviously doing a good job at that.
Yeah, and they understand the part that they play in that journey and how they're contributing to the overall growth of the company.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that we try and do is then, once we've cascaded the sort of the strategy to the management level and through the business, then it's for their teams to come back and say, this is how we're supporting in the delivery of that strategy. So it's, again, whilst it's a top-down communication, then it's also bottom-up clarity about how we're going to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in terms of building and then executing the strategic plan within the organisation, not just within Belazu, but your involvement in other organisations, perhaps not as a leader, but as part of the management team or below.
Yeah.
What are the big challenges? What are the kind of visceral pains that you've experienced going through that process?
I would actually probably say that trying to create the strategy in a lot of ways is, and I think a lot of leaders and a lot of businesses get carried away with creating a beautiful strategy document and presenting it and going, that's it, we've done on strategy. I think the real sort of the visceral challenges come when you're trying to execute. There's no point in having an amazing strategy if you can't translate that into execution. And I think that's quite often the bit where businesses fall down, and you sort of do the strategy, put it away in a file, or it gets put in a file on your computer, not to look at again. So I think making sure that the strategy has then been lived and breathed every single day, and how we're sort of laddering back up. And for me, it allows us just to keep super focused. And I think that's the other bit here, the 6 things we agreed on. So if other things come along, it's not to say we don't look at them, but there needs to be a really good reason as to why we would. And I think the other bit is, for us, is I think businesses can get carried away with, that's the strategy we've come up to, we have to stick with it. And I think it's not the sort of best strategy, it's the most agile. Sometimes you have to, and definitely. I think that's the reality of life. Things don't, you've got a perfect plan, things don't happen perfectly.
It's the Mike Tyson quote, everyone's got or what is it, forgetting it now, great plan until you get punched in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to touch on the point of agility, because we, without going into details, we live in a pretty crazy world that geopolitically and conflicts and supply chains being disrupted and innovation and AI, and there's a whole multitude of trends and forces at play. Again, not the specifics of it, but is that a big challenge for you as an organisation to navigate that? Yeah,
I think our biggest challenge probably is how we can keep up to date with all the tech and AI. Tech and AI is probably one of the biggest things that it's moving at a rate of knots, and it's not like from one year to the next, it's almost from 1 week to the next in some instances.
For us, it definitely feels the same as well.
And really then it's actually having, because our skill set is really in food manufacturing and selling and logistics, and it's not in tech. So I think that is one of the biggest areas about, we know that we need to do something about it. We quite often just don't have the knowledge or the expertise to say this is exactly what we need to do. So it's how we onboard that. And I think once you get to a certain size and scale as a business, I think if you're smaller, you can be more agile and test and learn things. But once you get to a certain scale, then you've got ERP systems, you've got payroll, like you've got a whole host of different systems that are trying to work together. So that's a big challenge.
No, I can imagine. Jumping to a slightly different topic, as you were saying, you came into the business off the back of it being a founder-led organisation. Yeah. How was that transition process of kind of picking up the baton?
Probably quite daunting, and not so much in terms of stepping into an MD role, but or taking over in the sense of did I think I was capable. Probably quite daunting because they'd done such a good job, I think, and the way they structured the business, they were very progressive and forward thinking in some of the things that they had done. Very much a flat structure, so there's not loads of hierarchy, and I would say I'd like to think that even to this day that when I walk around the business, everybody knows it's first name terms. I know most of the people that are in the business on a day-to-day basis. I see them around, we chat. Yeah. I think the biggest probably challenge was actually, for me, probably if I reflect back on my first 18 months, 24 months, I joined in COVID, so it was quite difficult. It was about survival then. So I joined August 2020. I had Adam and George and Charlie work with me through to circa January, February 2021. So I didn't have a long transition. And I suppose I was probably a little bit nervous initially to change things because they had set up such a well-run business, but probably in reflection coming out of COVID, there's probably lots of things that we had probably more permission to change because we had to do things differently. So probably one of my reflections would actually probably have been to make changes a bit quicker. And
I was actually going to ask a question related to not specifically COVID, but the big strategic challenges that you faced in your career, be that at Belazu or be that previously. What are some of the, or maybe one of the biggest instances of a strategic challenge that you've had to contend with, and how were you able to overcome it?
Wow, that's a big question, Ben. Strategic challenges, I think, I'd say they've been different in the different businesses. Obviously, in a large blue chip organisation, some of your strategic challenges is that the decisions you make have implications, and it can be hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of pounds of investment. So it's about, I think, one of the challenges there. I think one of the common threads actually through blue chip is about stakeholder management, stakeholder engagement. How do you get people bought into what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it? And it's the why you're trying to do it is quite often the sticking point. And I think then if I'd sort of transitioned that back to the latter part of my career, so I've probably broadly spent 50% in a blue chip, 50% in two privately owned sort of entities. In the privately owned space, and if I was to reference my time at Daylesford, it's very fast paced, very driven. You can make decisions really quickly. So some of the strategic challenges that you sort of come up against, you can turn things around pretty quickly to move in one direction. I think you've got more agility, whereas in a larger organisation, I think you've probably got less agility and sort of more layers to go through. But I think one of the common threads for me is about stakeholder management, and in my role today, and even when I was through my career, managing up and managing down.
Of course.
I think quite often people spend a lot of time managing up and not enough time working with the guys to say this is where we're trying to get to and why we're trying to do it. So I think stakeholder management is probably one of the biggest sort of challenges and skills that you learn actually along the way, because you don't always get it right. And even today, I don't get everything right. Of course. Far from it.
Of course, no, it's a journey for everyone, right?
Yeah.
And how do you actually tangibly implement and execute and manage the stakeholders in the business and bring them along on that journey? You touched before on every couple of weeks you have an all hands meeting.
Yeah.
Are there any other approaches that you have?
Yeah, and then we've got a variety of we've got weekly newsletters. We've got different sort of company events that we channel things through, but just simple things like from a cultural point of view, because I think culture is super important in any business. I think that sort of flat structure, that sort of familiarity and connection with people. We all eat in the same canteen downstairs. There's not, it's very.
I'd hope the food's good.
Yeah, food's very good. I can assure you,
yeah.
and we can try some afterwards if you've got the time.
Yeah.
But I think for me, just creating a culture where people feel engaged, involved, and they understand what's going on, why we're trying to do it, and have visibility and transparency around numbers, performance. Because the guys in the operational side of things, I was walking around yesterday, and it was busy. So they know that obviously we're building up stock to provide for customers and make sure we're on time, in full, all the usual stuff. And then the guys in the transport team, the big export order went out yesterday, so they're filling containers, and so just making sure that they can then, like coming back to that earlier point I said about we communicate something around strategy and this is where we're trying to get to, and then them physically seeing it as well and say this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. And they're inquisitive as well. We've got some people who've worked here for 20 plus years, and they're just keen to say they see the business growing and expanding, and I think it's just that sort of communication, and I would encourage all my team to get around the business as much as we can. Obviously in some roles it's easier than others, but just to make sure that we've got a presence and we're communicating and also getting the two-way feedback.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is important. So I describe it as sort of more like we're here to serve the team rather than them serve us. So I think if you put that mentality into your thinking, then it sort of really helps.
No, of course, and with the, as we were saying before, the nature of the food industry space at the moment, and food retail and food manufacturing, what do you think the next couple of years look like for the industry and also for Belazu? Again, it's another big question.
Yeah, no, it's and it's something I give a lot of thought to, because it's in the UK specifically, you've got the government of minimum wage is going up, national insurance is going up, so cost pressure is continuing. Still got continued inflation and the variety of different ingredients. So that some years it's better, some years it's worse. So you've got those continuing.
At the moment with tariffs on a number of different things, and who knows what will happen. It can change on a dime.
And if you've got a business that's heavily reliant on exporting into the US, you're probably slightly concerned. But I think for me, you've got, so over the next 2 years, two things that we will need to focus on is actually investing more in automation and probably investing more in tech. Two key things and two key enablers, because as we grow in scale, and also probably post-Brexit, the availability of labour in the UK to do some of the tasks that we're asking to do is just not there. So you've got, I think we need to try and build, as we grow in scale, build in more automation and more tech. And onboarding that quicker.
Yeah, and on that note, and this is an exercise we've done together as part of our work, if we were to think out to 2035 and the incredible success that I hope and I'm sure Belazu will achieve, we bring it back now to us sitting here today. What are the couple of areas that you would have really hammered and executed on in order to achieve that fantastic success over the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, so I think so as part of the strategy work, we've got the strategic priorities, but we've also got the enabling priorities in terms of what's going to enable us to deliver that. Yeah. And I think that's been one of the sort of real sort of moments of clarity as we've been going through the strategy process with you guys to say, okay, right, so it's not just the strategic priorities, it's, okay, what do we need to have underneath that? So for us, there'll be a reshaping of the manufacturing footprint. So how we do things today is not how we will be doing things in 2035. Of course. That I do know. And that's just the reality. As we grow in scale, we can't just keep doing more of what we've done to get us here. I think the other thing is, as I said, tech, and that's tech not just to say, we need to do loads of AI, but it's that customer journey, right, from how customers place orders with us through to how we serve them. And the sort of speed, the clarity, because it's that's becoming a very dynamic fixture. Like, we still have some customers who are phoning us up to place orders.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
really?
so we're very agnostic about how customers.
No faxes coming through the fax machine.
Yeah, not yet. Not if we maybe have to get that out shortly for some. But in terms of the tech, I actually think that will be one of the biggest changes. Okay.
And last couple of questions, because I know you're very busy and many things to do. Yeah. How is it within a business such as yours, and we can see olive oils and balsamic vinegars and many, many other things behind us, how is it balancing your core staple products that people know and love and have been placing orders for many years, both customers and end users, with the need for innovation and the next product and the next big thing?
Yeah, I think the core of our business is very much centred on products that we've been selling for a number of years. So as I said earlier, olives still represent a significant proportion of our business. Olive oil does as well. Our Rose Harissa is our number one. That's probably our most iconic product that we have in the range, and that's our number one selling product in a variety of formats.
I've seen it in people's fridges and tables in friends' houses and families' houses. So
excellent. So we're doing good.
You're doing something right.
So I think one of the things in terms of innovation, it's what we're seeing now is probably trying to be more innovative in terms of the formats in which we bring products to customers, because if I take our food service channel as an example, we've got restaurants that, again, are struggling to get staff in, skilled labour, working long hours, and what they're trying to do is say, where do we add value, where do we add cost, and how do we actually get consistent product day in, day out. So what we're actually seeing is that our role in their lives is actually still continue to inspire and bring them great quality products, but serving them in a slightly different way. So bringing them in maybe ready-made, and you're seeing that across a number of different industries where central production kitchens or central production units are used to then be that sort of hub, and then there's a spoke out to. So I think you will see a greater move towards that as well. And then obviously in the Michelin star level, you're sort of those sort of exceptionally talented chefs will continue to do what they've done and create amazing experiences through the dining experience in situ. But our job is actually to allow them to focus on that and take a lot of the grunt work and the heavy lifting out of the preparation maybe.
And how important is that collaboration for you with those chefs, with creative individuals and creative teams and organisations within the food space? Yeah,
I think it's super important. I think what I would say is that not only with chefs and creatives in the food space, but also connecting our suppliers. Our couple of examples I give, our olive oil supplier, Edward, who's sort of fourth generation olive oil producer in northern Spain, in Catalonia, up near Lleida. He is probably one of the most visionary producers I've ever worked with, and he's using tech and the latest technology to help get better data on, and data is everything in this world, better data on how the crop's performing, the yield, the insects, the local habitat, how we're doing it. So that sort of regenerative approach to farming. He's very much focused on that. And then we've also been working recently, one of our latest product launches has actually come from a 3-star Michelin chef approaching us about a project that he's working on. It's a guy called Brett Graham from the Ledbury. So Brett's been the exec chef at the Ledbury for a number of years, 3 Michelin stars, Australian guy, great guy, but super passionate about where products come from and what goes into them. And we've just launched a British grown rapeseed oil into the market, into food service, that doesn't have any glyphosates. So that's the chemical that generally gets used to treat them through the process. So you don't have that chemical then going into the food system. So we've worked with Brett. He and I spoke initially in December, and we brought the product to market at the end of January, with views to taking it into other channels. So again, I think we can get inspiration from the chefs in terms of what problems are we trying to solve in their life, and actually about that food security, the integrity of what goes into people's products. And I think that's one of the things that I would pride ourselves on at Belazu. We are very focused on just the simplicity of the ingredients, the simplicity of food, but bringing the best quality to market.
We've bookended it because we started with the importance of networking and collaboration and leveraging the opinions and skill sets of other individuals around you, and that's exactly what you and the organisation are doing now. I suppose it's the concept of a rising tide lifts all boats. Just to finish with then, what's next for yourself? What's next for the Belazu brand? What should we look out for?
I don't really like to talk about myself, so I'll focus on the Belazu brand.
Sure.
So we've got, I think, very exciting plans for the year ahead, but also it's going to be a very formative year in terms of for the strategic plan that we've worked on. In terms of, I think I'm really clear that we've got 6 key areas to focus on, and we will focus on those in terms of the strategic priorities. I think you can expect to see a growing presence in retail in the UK, and we've just recently launched an M&S, which I'm delighted from. So I feel like I've come full circle
of course.
On that. I'm very, and M&S is predominantly own brand, so for us to get 7 Belazu products in there is no mean feat. We're also got exciting plans coming down the track with other retailers, Tesco, Waitrose, etc. as well, and Sainsbury's. And we've also then got really exciting plans in export, and that is something for us that's really taken off. And I think one of the things that's helped us unlock that is we've rebranded a couple of years ago, and I think the resonance of the brand now in that retail fixture on a retail shelf really pops out. The Belazu blue is definitely something.
We've had some exciting marketing campaigns as well. I've seen recently in train stations.
And we're trying to just, we continue. One of our things is we want to, I always say to the team, is the world going to be a better place if more people are eating Belazu and or using Belazu olive oil or balsamic, because actually what we're trying to do is to give people better quality products and better quality ingredients to eat, and also that are super convenient. So if you come in some evening and you're rushed and you don't have a lot of time, most of our products can help you make a really quick and tasty dinner very easily. And 95% of our products are vegetarian or vegan. So we've got quite a lot. It's predominantly plant-based, but that's not something we shout about. But I think it's just giving people that inspiration, and also that connection between that it's most of our products are used in the best restaurants and Belazu, and at home. You can have it in a 3-star Michelin kitchen, or you can have it at your home. So again, that connection between the accessibility of quality in a Michelin star restaurant to a Wednesday night midweek meal,
definitely
is there.
I mean, my takeaway is, and again, I have the pleasure of knowing yourself and you guys and the brand a bit as well, is the core purpose of the organisation, customer-driven innovation or a customer-driven focus, and then real clarity on what needs to be done to go and execute. So look, really appreciate the time. Really appreciate your insight on your career, your journey, your thoughts, and the Belazu brand as well. And look forward to the continued work together.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben.